Good morning. Good morning to you. I need to zen out right now. I need a cup of juice. Get the book right here. Let me do a quick little read. It's not going to be quick, but I want to read to you some of what I've been writing. Um, yeah, this music definitely need this little soft music right now. So I'm a little bit emotional. Um, Hi, Tweety. Give me 1 second. Let me go get something. I'll be right back. Okay. Hi, good morning, Kenyatta. Good morning. Um, uh, let me move this away from my computer. Need some little cherry juice. Um, okay. So I'm a little bit emotional right now because, coming out of prison, I had a lot of things that I wanted to do. A lot of things that I wanted to do. And I was like, oh, I just want to get to it. I prayed day after day, Lord, please, because when you are in NDOC, right, like I know what Blueface is going through. He's doing his time, but when it comes to the last 6 months of that timing, it's going to be rough because number one, people want to prevent you from coming home because the way that it's set up is um, you have 3 dates. You have 3 dates to come home. You have a PED, you have an MPR, and then you have an expiration. A PED is a parole expectancy date, which I got dumped off of for no reason. Okay. A parole expectancy date is the date that you expect to parole. I didn't have any major write-ups. I never dabbled in drugs. So that wasn't a thing. In or out of jail. So why would I go in and start, right? So I didn't have any drug charges in house. I didn't have any MJ30s, which is like having sex with other women while you're in prison or inappropriate touching. I didn't have any compromising, which means like you're trying to sleep with an officer. I didn't have any introductory charges, meaning like I wasn't introducing tobacco or anything, nothing. I had nothing. I didn't have any institutional violence on record, right? So whatever I did get into, the police didn't catch it, so it wasn't on record for the parole board to see. But I was still dropped. I was still dumped from my first parole date. And my brother told me, I'm sorry because I feel a bit emotional, right? So my brother, uh, my little brother, one of the best little brothers in the world, um, because he was right there with me the entire time. Like my brother was every day on that phone, every single day. My brother didn't miss. He didn't miss. You know what I mean? And my brother told me that because my PED and my NPR was very so close together, that I would be dumped off my PED. I told him, don't put that negativity off in my life, bro. That's not true. Don't do that. You know what I'm saying? That's your experience. He like, sis, I lived in Vegas my entire life. He like, I know this system like the back of my hand. He like, I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm trying to prepare you, right? Yet and still, the way that my mind works is I'm like, I serve a God that performs miracles. And if God says it's my time to leave, then it's my time to leave. At the end of the day, I was dumped from that parole date because my next parole date, my NPR, was 4 months later. I was supposed to go home in November. I didn't get out till March. So I got out on my NPR, which is my mandatory parole date. If I don't have any violence, if nothing happens in between my PED and my NPR, I can be released on my mandatory parole date. If you get into a fight, if you catch a major charge, if you whatever, you get dumped off that date too, and you have to roll over to expiration. So in between, my PED and my NPR, it was rough. It was rough. I was moved from Smiley Road, which is what we call the main prison, where I pretty much got along with all 600 girls that were there, to I was moved to Camp Jean, right? And it was rough because within the first 3 days of me being at Camp Jean, I was literally attacked physically and had to fight. Like it was really bad. Ended up busting this girl's nose and she didn't want to take the L and she just kept coming, kept coming. And I had my next parole date. Mind you, I'd already gotten dropped off of one. I got dumped on my first one. I had my next parole date 2 weeks later after I arrived in camp. And I felt like the day before, me and this same girl were walking around the track and we were talking about, I was telling her I got parole in 2 weeks. I'm so excited. I just want to go in front of parole board, let them know the stuff I've been working on. And her response was, I don't really give a fuck about nobody else's parole board because I got to do time. When she said time, that means 5 years plus. Anything 5 years and under, that's baby time. That's what they call it, baby time. But I thought because she said time, she meant 5 years plus. So I stopped talking about it. I didn't realize that girl was so offended by me talking about my journey going home. Now, mind you, she's one of what we call the new girls. And uh, the reason why we call them the new girls is because between 2022 and the beginning of 2024, the prison really wasn't letting any new girls in because of COVID and, the trying to adjust to everything. So it was all of the same girls. It was really like a family. It was all of us, the same people, same rotation. You see the same people everywhere you go, same classes, same yard time. Everything was just the same people. At the beginning of 2024, around June, they released 200 extra girls into the prison. And it just seemed like from there, things just got real wild. It just seemed like Nevada just started, once that COVID stuff was over, they just was like, throw her in prison, throw her in prison, throw her in prison, throw her in prison. And it just, influx of new people came in. So these people at camp are the new people. I don't know them. You know what I'm saying? And that experience was very, very traumatizing for me. And you would think that because I did 2.5 years, 3 years, that you know, it would have been rough maybe during the middle, maybe a year in or what. No, it was the last 4 months was so rough. It was the very last 4 months that made me say, I would never wish this on anybody. Never. I would never wish that on anybody. I am so traumatized, bro. I really am. Like, I realize, like, I'm traumatized. I am. And mm, I'm going to stop my thoughts right now and I'm going to ask you guys to pray for my daughter. That's what I'm going to do. Um, I'm going to ask you guys to pray for my daughter. Um, my my situation right now is rough. In October, um, I was in prison. Nani was in jail. My son was in jail. We were all in jail in October. It just so happens that, and I know this is an attack on my family because why are me and all my children in jail at the same time, right? So I know that the devil has been attacking me and my family. It's nothing new. But right, so recently, coming out of prison, I let's go from here. So from the day that I was dumped off of my PED and my NPR date, I would pray every day. And I would be like, God, please get me out of here. Let me out of here. I want to get back to work. I want to get back to what I do. I miss the people that encouraged me every day. I miss seeing certain people like Vanessa Edgar and, Belinda. Those names come across my screen. People that encouraged me daily, that watched my journey for a long time, that knows me well enough to know that they threw me in there without doing a real investigation for 2.5 years, going on 3. It would have been 3 in July. But I was praying every day. I was manifesting so much. I was writing poetry every day. I was really on top of my game when it came to my literature, my orature, the things that I wanted to say, the things that I wanted to share. Um, yeah, and then I went abstentia, and I was like, went what? Abstentia. I didn't have to go in front of the parole board. At my first parole hearing, Nani showed up, long blue wig, blue nails out to here. You know, she made her statement. Did all the little stuff. She couldn't help but smile. She was on camera, and one of the parole commissioners is a black lady. The white lady, she was on my neck. She was on my neck as she should be. That's her job. There was a white balding man. He was kind of quiet, just observing everything. And then a black lady, she looked from me, she looked to Nani, and she said, "You better be good." That's what she said to Nani. She didn't even speak to me. She looked at my daughter and she was like, You, you better be good. And it shocked me. It surprised me. I was like, wow, she can see all that, huh? Okay, then. So I really was like, I want to get out and I want to do this and I want to do that and I'm going to do this and, I want to get us back on track and I want to, all of these things. Thank you, Sam. I hate that for you. We are human and flawed, but now you have something else to heal from. Right. Yeah. Um, and I just thought things were going to be a little bit easier than they are for me to deal with emotionally, financially, all of the things, right? Um, and so When I got out, things flowed beautifully for about the first week and a half. And then even after that, for about 2.5 weeks. The thing is that sometimes life tries to throw you distractions and tries to throw things at you, right? So I come out, I go to court for Nani. Cool, you can have her back. Boom, children's court, you can have her back. There you go. Cool, got the court order. Okay. Criminal court, aren't you on parole? Yes, yes, I am. Isn't she on probation? Yes, yes, she is. Nope, she cannot come home. You say, what now? But I have a court order from children's court saying I can have my baby. But criminal court trumps children's court, and you're on parole, and your daughter's on probation. She cannot come home. Okay, okay. So from that point, things changed. It got harder for me emotionally because one thing I'm not used to is a criminal court stopping me from getting my children back, because I've dealt with children's court before and I've never been the mom that can't get her motherfucking kids back. Like, what? I don't do nothing that bad. I might have a fight here, a fight there, but I'm not out here doing, you know what I mean? So it just tripped me out that this whole case and mind you, this whole criminal case that is over a slap. It's not like anybody got choked, nobody got slammed, nobody got a belt put to them, nobody got beat with cords and this and that, all the stuff that I got. I'm just saying, there wasn't no brooms involved. Nobody got locked in rooms. It wasn't no, you know what I'm saying? This is a slap. 2.5 years for a slap. Not even but just a slap. Okay. And now you're telling me, on top of me getting her back, because the children's court was like, what? Get that girl, baby back. That was some bullshit anyway. You know what I'm saying? Now, not only did you guys take 2.5 years out of my life for a slap, but then you also are standing in the way of me making progress with my child once more. Mind you, Nani is like, I want to go home. I don't give a damn if I live in a cardboard box with my mother. I want to go home. I want my mom. I want to go home to my mom. She's like angry about it. So she's doing stupid stuff, man. You know what I'm saying? She's doing stupid stuff because she wants to come to me. And that's not going to help us. That's not going to help. It's not. It's not going to help. And the last thing that I want to see is my... You know, our decisions affect everybody around us. In my reentry class, it's called the ripple effect, right? It doesn't only affect you when you do stupid shit. It affects us all. And so when you move stupidly because you're not getting what you want at the time that you want it, it's not okay. I want to have a car right now. I want to have the money back in my bank account that I had. I want to have all the things that I had. I can't do that right now. I'm working toward. You have to work towards things. Sometimes things are a process. And with her just getting out of jail and being on probation and doing stupid shit. And so anyway, I just recently had to pull her out of her school because I still have, I mean, she's supposed to be home, so I have all the rights to do what I need to do. So I just had to pull her out of her school and put her in online school, which I think is better for her at this point, um, because her probation officer walked up on her doing some shit that she just better thank her lucky stars that that man gave her one more chance. That's what she better do. Do you know how many minors I saw in prison? Too many. Too many. And they keep them away from us, right? Because we're grown women. And some of these women are predators, rapists, and just overall violent, don't like kids. They child died, so they feel like other kids should die. This is what I'm dealing with, these type of spirits while I'm in there, right? So, but there were minors there in the prison. They changed one of our in-house minimum pods to a pod for minors because it became more than just one. It became multiple minors in there. I don't know if you guys just saw recently, there was a young girl who killed her father out here. There's a girl that's been in that prison since I've been in there. She came in at 16. When she turned 18, they released her from that pod and let her come out in general population. She killed her whole family. She killed her whole family. And not for nothing, but like, this is not, I need to get my baby out of Nevada. We need to get away from here because the demons that are in Nevada are different. And this is a place where these people will just lock you up, just to lock you up. They don't really care to do investigations. They don't care what happened. You both be locked up and be in the same prison fighting it out, or the same jail, whatever. But yeah, like this last situation really scared me with my daughter. And I just really, man, just pray for my baby. And it's got me a little bit emotional because I'm just like, I need to get me and my child out of here. The worst mistake that I ever made was moving from Atlanta to Las Vegas. The moment that I arrived here, and I do mean the moment that I arrived here, I was at Sam's Town and people were calling the police to my room saying I was harming myself. We know who those people are, but they're not even worth mentioning. That's just sad. It's tomfoolery. I often wonder like what would make you think that's okay mentally to do? Why do you do stupid stuff like that? We're adults doing content and you calling the police to people's house and saying, are they okay? What are they gonna do? They're gonna get there and they're gonna say, oh yeah, everything's okay. Cool. Okay. Why? What is your point in doing that? Like, I don't get it at all. I don't. Am I gonna move back to Atlanta? At this point, I'm not exactly sure if it'll be Atlanta or what it will be, But yep, Latrice. But it won't be Vegas. This a different demon right here. This is a whole different demon. Yeah, people are sick. I get into it with the clerk at the 7-Eleven because she tried to attack Rihanna. She literally tried to physically attack my child because my child looks older than she is. So I get into it with her. She coming for Nani. Nani is videotaping in the store. She tried to lunge for Nani and grab Nani's phone. So I punched her. Bow. Like, that is a child. What the hell is wrong with you? And you don't grab nobody's phone. I don't give a damn how high, drunk, crystal meth, fentanyl. I don't give a damn what you on. You don't grab nobody's phone like that. And by the way, she wasn't videoing you. Like, you know what I'm saying? But you don't grab my baby phone like that. Like, you don't come after my child. That is a fucking minor, right? So I share it online because I decided to drive down the street to the gas station and call the police. I call the police show up, I'm crying, I have on my black and white Dior jacket. I share it online because I'm so shocked, like this lady just tried to attack my daughter. I went in there to buy a hot dog and some Snoop Dogg wine, right? And I'm like, this lady just tried to attack my kid. And I had to punch this bitch. So, and this was the backdrop that I used when everybody did the bullsh crap. Right. So I share it online, and these sick people decide to take a traumatic situation that happened with my daughter and make it about me. Oh, she got into a fight at the 7-Eleven, and she did this and that with the 7-Eleven. Meanwhile, my fucking daughter is traumatized because a grown-ass woman just tried to attack her. Like, I just feel like the sickness is beyond what I can even understand as to why people think it's appropriate to do certain things. You've never ever seen me get on this platform well, I'm glad I didn't even realize that, because yeah, absolutely. You've never ever seen me get on this platform and put nobody's address out, talk about their children, talk about their pets, try to predict what they're doing in their household, bring up their criminal records, talk about you've never seen me do that. I don't need to spite people and put people down that far to make content. And that's not content. I done had somebody sit up here and say she don't believe in God, yell and scream my name, Toxic Diamond, all that junk. Put my address out, calling my 818 number, trying to figure out which Seagull Suite I'm at. Call a whole different Seagull Suite, mind you, and say, oh, my drugs are melting. This is Danita Johnson. My drugs are melting. Trying to make it seem like she's me when I'm not even at that Seagull Suite. You know what I'm saying? You don't know where I am. You know what I mean? Call CPS and do this and all that stuff, not even realizing I already have a CPS case open. So while you're doing all of that, I'm already dealing with what I'm dealing with. I never hid that from the public, but you did too much off of me just bagging on you. Oh, and the words that I said was, you live in the projects on YouTube. Tasha K lives in a mansion. That's what I said. You look like a baboon with your red lipstick on because you have big hair and red lipstick. You look like a baboon. You calling me big snowman body, big this, big fat this, fat that, and I was fat, and I didn't even realize how fat I was. So, but at the end of the day, I wasn't tripping. I was just joking back and forth. You went from that to all the way to darkness. right? Call CPS, call the dog patrol, got these people really stalking me and my kid around Vegas. Like it really, I just really feel like the demons that are here in Vegas are totally different. Oh, they were very jealous, very jealous. You should have saw how quickly the two stalkers that I had dropped King Pain for having me on his channel because he said, "Oh, you look good, girl." Da da da. She looked good. Oh my God. Da 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 da. She did not look good. These two older, elderly white women chasing me around Vegas about a dog that I didn't have for 2 fucking years. So, and black content creators making them feel like it's okay to do that. I just I just feel like moving to Vegas was one of the worst decisions that I've ever made. And them blocking me from getting more animals at that shelter was one of the best things that could happen for me. And I didn't even realize it. Because you would be surprised how many people are in prison right now behind owning a pet in Las Vegas. These people don't have shit to do. And that's very clear. I'm like, how do you have your whole day to chase somebody that don't even think about you? That's living their own life, don't worry about you. You have all day to do this. You don't have nothing else to do? No, they don't. They really don't. They really don't. In real life, they have nothing else to do. And it just was crazy, right? And I'm upset because I threw my child in the middle of this shit. Yeah, bougie Barbie, that's what they do. And that I don't even call them CCs. They're not even content creators. Those are people on YouTube that's doing dumb shit. Like they just people on YouTube. Because you're not creating content. You're with the bullshit. Yeah, absolutely, gems. Crazy part about that is I had gotten a new dog after Gems. They didn't say nothing about the new dog. I had a new dog named Jules. But nobody ever said anything about Jules. I think it's ridiculous. They chose to do this one little thing, whatever they chose to do, and that was that. And I just think that it really put me in a place where I'm like, now that my kid is going through what she's going through, right? Because it went from me, and now that I made it out, now the devil is like, ooh, attack her kid. Let's get her kid behind bars. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like all that me and my daughter went through out here because of these people and because of their behavior, and then to have all this stuff going on out here in Vegas, it's a whole different demon. It's a whole different attack. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to me. Um, but yeah, absolutely schoolyard bullies. Women that are not really women, that didn't really grow up. Hi, Key. Greetings. Women that didn't grow up, that's stuck in their adolescence, that don't know how to act. You think that it's cool for you to be out here dogging somebody's situation with their child. Like, for instance, Trees, her and her daughter have had a back and forth. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't agree on both ends. You know what I'm saying? Like, whenever my kid came and lied and said whatever he said, whatever that was, I didn't go back and forth with him on the internet. I would never mention it again. That's how you feel. Come when you're ready to come to me in real life, outside of you trying to get this type of attention, I'll be right here. I'm your mother. And guess what? Not only that, but I'm gonna do you one better, and I'm gonna show you the example of what a mother's supposed to be. And I'm not gonna drag you on the internet because you're my child. And I'm gonna show you the example of how to be better than you are right now. So God bless you, son. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sorry for whatever I did to make you feel that way. I apologize. God bless you in your journey. You're an adult now. You can choose to talk to me or not. But we're not doing this. I'm not doing the internet back and forth with you. Not only am I better than that, but we know better than that, right? Because I had my own situation, right? But then so like, and I'm gonna be real with y'all. I feel like Trees is the YouTuber. You, as her daughter, you're only coming on this platform because this is her platform. You're coming on this platform as her daughter to drag her to her audience. That's not cool. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Tweety. Thank you so much. That's not cool. You trying to embarrass your mother in front of her audience. Whereas in my situation, right, I'm the content creator, I'm the blogger. So you as the parent, you're coming onto my platform to try to drag me in front of my audience. It's just not right on both ends. And I take full accountability for the fact that I got up here and I decided to start sharing my situation with my mother. Everybody knows that I was raised by my father. That's not a joke. That's not a secret. There is a reason why a young Black woman would be raised by her father. Everybody knows that. Hold on. Hold on, y'all. Ouch. Why can't I end this call? Best friend. Best friend. Yeah, I'm live. Okay, bye. So, but my situation for me when I was talking about my mother, right, in my experience, and I never said her name, I never identified her. She decided to come identify herself, which was the stupidest thing she could ever do. That was ridiculous. But it started to where my grandmother had passed away. My grandma Gracie, she passed away. And hi Jennifer Gorga. Hi. And I was like, I'm going out with my mom, you know what I'm saying? And we're gonna go to dinner. But the because of her lack of love for me, she stood me up. Hold on, y'all. I need some lip gloss. Give me 1 second. I need to put some lip gloss on these lips. Cause baby, we looking dry. And I just lotioned my face up real good. So, but I think I cried on a little lotion off because I got upset. Right when I was sitting down, I was trying to tell my story. As a mom of 3 and a grandma of 2, being a mom doesn't come with a manual. It's hard, but I learned to keep evolving in order to stay effective in their lives. Right? It's a constant evolution. It's a constant evolution because your child is going to keep changing, right? Especially when like what I'm going through with my youngest child being a teenager, and with me having to deal with 3 teenagers at the same time. That was rough on me. That was rough on me whenever I'm dealing with these 2 male teenagers, and then my daughter is growing up mentally before her time. You know what I'm saying? And then they all are teenagers, and now I'm dealing with 2 19-year-olds and a 13-year-old. Isn't it funny you look like her and she treated you so bad? You know what? Um, I don't, Marcy. I don't even want to give that a response on this internet. I really don't. But I'm gonna just say correct, correct. But I decided to share when my grandmother passed away, and I was excited about going out with my mother, and then I was stood up. that's when I got triggered and I got upset and I decided to start sharing, right? And it was wrong on my part. It was so wrong, and I really regret that. I do, not because of how it affected her, because she doesn't have that for me. Like, she doesn't care how things affect me. So I have to pull back from my love for her. I love really hard. You know what I'm saying? And I find myself having to pull back from my love for her because the situation is not going to end like I want it to end. And I already know that. I don't want it to come to an end. I'd like to have an ongoing working relationship, but because of the other person's need to gossip about me to her other children and make salacious, you know what I'm saying? Like these salacious statements about me and stuff like that. And it's never gonna work. I like I said, I remember being 18 and I got my license, and one of my sisters came to me and said, she said, you ain't got no license. Like, and I pulled my license out. Why would I need to lie about having my license? You know, it's stuff like that it sticks in my head, and it helps me to remember, back up. I know you love her. Back the fuck up. Okay? Just chill. Because that ain't who you think it is. Just keep your space, right? So, but the fact that I decided to vent myself, to vent in the way that I did online, it was wrong. It was wrong. That is not how you solve an issue between you and your parent. YouTube is not a therapist. That was a cycle of verbal abuse that I not only had to deal with, but that I put out there. Although I don't understand why she decided to watch all those videos. Because I don't watch any videos that anybody does about me. I'm not watching not one of them. Except I recently watched some Tim 2.0. So I thought he had some positive stuff to say, and then he was making untrue statements as well. But I was dead ass wrong for that. You do not get on the internet and dog your family out. That is immature. It's not wise. And wisdom is a big deal, you know. Also, though, I was able to see, though, clearly the lack of love. It clearly showed me, like, this is who you're dealing with. You're not dealing with a person that's going to say, oh, you're in pain. Let's talk about this. Let me talk to you. Let's fix this. You're dealing with a person that's going to shoot back at you. They're going to try to shoot you. They're going to try to snipe you. You're dealing with a sniper. You're dealing with a gutter sniper. That's what you're dealing with. So it helped me, too, to realize this person is not somebody that I should even want a relationship with. This is not, this is not somebody that's going to help me see and help me grow. We're going to continue to go in a cycle because this is a tit for tat. It's not somebody that's going to be the adult or the older or that title that they're supposed to have. They're not going to behave that way. So it also helped me to realize that. And it helped me to not do that when it came to my kid. I could show you guys some stuff right now that will blow your socks off. I really could. I have so many text messages and correspondence of a person saying, if you don't say this and say that, you getting the F out of my house and all this to my kids. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not even mad at my son. You know what I mean? But I wanted to show him what I wanted. If my child is going to get on the internet, hi Judy, and say that I've done something wrong, I'm not going to shoot back at him and try to murder his heart and try to drag him and no, I'm sorry, son. Whatever I did, I apologize. And when you're ready to talk about it in real life and you're ready to really fix it, you can come to me and I'll be ready. Okay. I'm waiting for you to be ready whenever that is. I'm right here. That's the type of parent that I would have wanted. That's what I would have liked to receive. But instead, I had to do that for mine. And sometimes in life you get these lessons, right, where people are in your life and they teach you what to do and they teach you what not to do, right? So everything is a lesson, everything is a learning experience, and then that's what I have learned from that experience. I'm grateful it happened, because I was crying out so hard. I was angry, drinking, trying to bury my anger in alcohol, trying to bury my void, my emotions in alcohol. And I was hurting myself. I was hurting myself. Not for nothing, but being in prison and being sober for 2.5 years and really being sober, because it was girls that was high up in there, okay? Um, it taught me a lot about myself. I feel like I went through a lot emotionally while I was in there, and I was able to address a lot of stuff. And that makes me feel good. That makes me feel good. I don't need to bury my emotions in no damn liquor. What is that going to do for me? Nothing. I don't know why I did that so many years. I guess I didn't know what better to do, like being raised in a hood and around dysfunctional parents and not having the proper outlet. But the other day I'd started feeling some type of way. So, and I knew these emotions were going to come up. These are things that we talk about in our classes before we get out. We all know it's going to happen. Even the warden came and made some statements that one of them I didn't stick by. Don't mess with nobody for the first 30 days. Don't go back to your ex-boyfriends for the first 30 days. Just stay to you for 30 to 60. I didn't do that. I fucked up with that, and he was right, because this situation that I told you guys about on Storytime episode 1 with the man, you know. So, but but yeah, my prayer is that people learn to love themselves enough to where whatever happened to you in the past, that you realize that God allowed that to happen for a reason. If a person don't want to deal with you, that's because God is moving that person from you out of your way. And that's okay too. It don't matter who that person is. Move around. That don't, just because you want to be and to have this person in your life, don't mean that that person's worth being in your life. Maybe they're not good for you. Maybe if they were in your life, you would have been abused and confused even more. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, every time God, thank you, Tweety. Sometimes when God allows that man to walk away from you and you feel like this nigga don't even care about me, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good thing. I'm just saying. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because this person is in your life. Look at the person, that you're, and look at how you guys treat each other. So I don't know. It's certain things that happens here on this platform. Back to what I was saying though, that I feel like is crazy. People started picking up the story with Trees and her daughter, and I thought that was inappropriate. You don't get any, but see, we're not dealing with women though. We're not dealing with real women. Any real woman would know. You don't get in between what's going on with a mother and her children, right? So I was never going to get up here and be like, oh, Trees' daughter came on the internet and she said, and Trees said, but that's crazy. That's that woman and her child. Mind your fucking business. What would make you think that's okay to do? That's crazy. And then have that shit sitting on your channel, like, there's too many of these people. Everything that goes around comes around. Just know that. I bit the crap out of my lip, y'all. Look at that. That hurts. I bit myself real hard. But we're not dealing with women. You know, we're not. We're dealing with people that either it's a money run. Let me tell you why. And see, for me, right, and I'm not being biased, but for me, it's a little bit different with Tasha K, right? Because we know that Tasha K has these documentary interview style, very kind of like professionally put together um, situations. It was a lot, and her daughter has mental health issues, right? Right. Really, we all have a mental health issue, you know. If you understood psychology, for sure, you know, like we all have uh, mental health issues. Thank you, Marcy. Thank you, Demita. Yep, I love you back. Um, but for me, right, with Tasha K, it's a little bit different. It's very professionally set up, right? And I feel like with Tasha K, um, it comes from a different place. Even though you would think that is coming from a place of her wanting to just dog a female, it's not. Tasha K is not emotionally connected to her content. She's not. And the one time that she did get emotionally connected to her content, she got sued for it. And I think she learned her lesson for that. I still, though, don't agree with her getting up there and interviewing Jaguar's son, even though I know Jaguar enjoys that attention. She don't care what you say about her. Jaguar, she enjoys the attention. She likes that. She doesn't mind her son getting up there. She probably told him to go do it. But I still don't agree with her, Tasha K, interviewing the son. Had it been maybe the baby daddy or auntie, I mean, she's done all that. At one point or another, it's like, how many of these interviews are you gonna do about this lady with her kid? Like, we already know everything. He's gonna drag his mom. We got it. Get it. Next. You know what I mean? It gets to a point where it's just like, how many of these are we gonna do? How many? Why are we still talking to the son about? We know, like, we still doing this. It's been 2.5 years. I get out the same shit to the same thing. What has changed? This is my problem. This is the problem that I'm having. All right, let me get into this book read, y'all. Give me 1 second. Let me go check since everybody want to start texting and calling me when I come live. Let's hear some smooth beats. Be right back. Okay. Okay. We're finna start the book read. So, um, so the book read is exactly 1 hour in, so that's good. I can easily timestamp it. All right. So, as you guys don't know, because I didn't put the title of this book out, I did write about my experience in prison in several different ways. I wrote a journal, my journal, and then because I journaled every single day, and then I wrote my docu series, and then also I wrote it poetry style, and then I wrote a couple of other novels about my situation, my experience leading up to um, being in prison, and I even wrote about my experience becoming a blogger. Kind of like the whole thing is written out, right? This is a part of my docu series. Hold on. This is a part of my docu series. This is season 1, episode 1 that I'm about to read to you. I might read a few of these, but yeah. Anyway, just know this is the very beginning, so I kind of have to. Yeah, I'm like working my way up into it. Okay, so after this other book that I wrote, we have this. We have the docu series. Okay, and one leads into the other. They literally lead one into the other. So if you do buy one book, you're going to need to buy another book to go with it because they are in order, but I'm not publishing them in order. So that's just the difference. Okay, here we go. Y'all want to hear something cute? My dad, I went through my storage the other day, and my dad had saved a letter that I wrote to him when I was 14 years old. He has a 23-year-old letter, a 23 plus year old letter in my storage right now. It was folded into my middle school diploma. And I was like, and the stuff that I was saying was so funny. That's another video. My dad is that man. Oh my God. That is Anyway, let's get to this book read. I was sitting in the fish tank, perfectly irritated and prepared to spend my 38th birthday there. It had been such a long process, especially because my bunkie had swamp bottom. Y'all know what swamp bottom is? That means a stinky ass. Okay? She had swamp bottom. She smelled crazy, and there were times when she sat on the toilet that I felt attacked. I'm still not used to watching people go to the toilet. Needless to say, I was happy as hell to be moving. The moving date fell exactly on my birthday at about 4:30 p.m. Before this move, being in the fish tank, I could only make one call once a week for 15 minutes. I was allowed a shower every other day and only opened the cell door to grab food trays and put food trays back where they belonged. This girl I was bunked with either slept all day or was up trying to flirt with the CO, Mr. Wrong. I used to be super irritated at my bunkie, but trying to not show it, trying to not show it to her because she seemed to be mentally unstable. She had admitted to me that she was on drugs when she was free, even though you couldn't tell by the way she looked. I also found out that she was facing life for being a habitual felon, and that left a really bad taste in my mouth about her. She had been moving, but she had been nothing but cool with me. However, she had been nothing but cool with me, however. So I chose to keep all that to myself. The next thing I knew, my room number was being called and the doors popped. We were asked to roll up, and at that time I didn't understand that term, but I took a cue from my bunkie who had been through this process quite a few times. We sat in the room waiting on our names to be called. It was the Oh, I was a basket of nerves just sitting there knowing I could finally leave this little tiny cell after 3 weeks. I knew I would be able to talk to my family for more than 15 minutes a week. I would be able to do things that I couldn't do in that cell, like go outside on the yard and use the microwave to make tea and coffee. basic things that people often take for granted. When our names were finally called, there was a group of about 10 of us. We were scrambling to get our things together so we could move on in this journey. It wasn't that we were moving into paradise or even a decent living condition, but anything was better than what we were experiencing at this time. We were finally called into the hallway, and we had these large black bins that we had to stuff all of our things into. It was it was a task. It was also a long walk. Walking down the hallway was exciting, especially for myself, who for some reason loves adventures, be it good or bad. I just love being able to experience new things in life. I'm adventurous in that way. We started seeing things we didn't know existed in the prison, which is several different pods all sectioned off, many, many more girls, many officers I'd never seen, the laundry room, the cafeteria, the operations bubbles, the visitation areas, boards with many postings on them, the yard, even a portion of the prison with a children's playground. Very exciting. We were all quiet, walking and talking everything. We were all quiet, walking and taking everything in. I think we may have all been in some type of shock. One officer yelled at us once we reached the door and he said, "Shut the hell up and listen to these instructions." We all immediately got intimidated. We were scared. We had heard that some of the officers would run up to you and get in your face, but I honestly didn't expect it in this moment. This man was clearly getting off being a complete asshole. He said, "Your room is 204D to me." And although I was confused, I was not about to find clarity through him. I was not about to find clarity through him. I just entered the pod like I knew what to do. When I went into the pod, I was scared. I just walked in and looked around myself and was in complete shock. I didn't expect what was in front of me. It was mainly white women. I always thought that jails in every state were majority black people because of the reports I had seen on the news and just in life. That isn't and wasn't what it was. It was white women everywhere and only about 4 black women in the entire pod. These girls walked up to me asking me what room I was in. I didn't realize they could tell where people were going because of the available bunks. Walking in, I was surprised the girls were nice to me. In my head, I thought I was walking into a war zone of women who treated the new inmates like they stole from them or slept with their baby daddies. I didn't expect the niceties at all. One girl said, "Do you need help with your trunk?" We had these trunks that we had all of our stuff in, that we had to stuff all of our belongings into coming from intake part A. The thing was big, it was heavy, and would stay with me for the rest of my stay. That's just how they did it at NDOC FMWCC. "Yes, I can use some help. I appreciate it," I said back to the girl. She started helping me drag my stuff upstairs. At this point, I'm thinking like, okay, this isn't going to be hard. This isn't going to be hard. I'm going to be okay. I knew I had to stay for 2.5 years, even though I hadn't told anyone else but my dad at this time. I was just glad to have that type of welcoming. It felt like a good sign at the time. We're dragging this box and I'm barely doing any work. I look up and realize it's the small Hispanic woman doing all the dragging and I start feeling bad. I look beyond her and see a big ass black lady waiting at the top of the stairs with her hands on her hips. We get to the top of the stairs and I take a peek inside of the cell before I walk in. I saw 8 beds and I immediately was intimidated. There was girls sitting at a large table to the side of the room with so many snacks that I hadn't seen in months right there in my face. I hadn't seen a snack in so long, they were shining like gold or something. They were just sitting there on the table being overlooked like it was normal in this setting. For me, I had been through CCDC where we ate food that tasted like wood. No meat, no flavor. I was hungry for real. I did get some commissary at CCDC, but those little snacks was nothing compared to all this goodness I saw on this table. There was popcorn, cookies, almond Snickers, sodas. It went on and on. I felt myself staring at the snacks and I saw everyone noticing me. I got embarrassed. I didn't want to seem thirsty, but I was literally thirsty. I'm sorry, y'all. See, I'm getting emotional. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I did not intend to cry through this book reading. Okay. Okay. All right. I got embarrassed. I didn't want to seem thirsty, but I was literally thirsty. I started unpacking my stuff and saw someone was actually lying in my assigned bunk. It was a small lady that helped me up the stairs that was in my damn bunk. I was like, well, okay, now I see the motive. She wanted me in a good mood so I wouldn't trip on her for being in my bed area. And here I was thinking she was just being nice. I would learn my lesson soon enough about trying to be so friendly in this environment. Things definitely didn't stay like this at all. That's my bunk, I said to her. Well, I'm D, and it really doesn't matter which bed you're in. The police don't give a damn. She said it like it was matter of fact. But what she was really saying was that she wasn't about to move her stuff. I had definitely read between the lines of that statement. Thank y'all. Thank you. I had definitely read between the lines of that statement. Okay, well, where do I go? I asked. I was truly perplexed. I didn't want to have drama on the very first moment that I walked in that cell. There was a lot of ladies in that one room, and I didn't know if she had family or homegirls in there. I was just stuck. At that point, it didn't matter if I wanted to sleep in my assigned bunk or not. She wasn't going to move. I was uncomfortable with the sleeping arrangement, but decided to keep it quiet for the moment. I also felt something bubbling up inside of me. I kind of felt like I was being punked out of my bed, and also like she left me no choice but to establish my authority and advocate for myself. I've seen a lot of things go too far. I've seen a lot of things go too far in this setting where a young lady just let too much pass. I wasn't willing to let that happen, but I know that it wasn't the day or time because, oh, okay. I wasn't willing to let that happen, but I know that it wasn't the day because it was my birthday and it wasn't the time. You want some snacks? Dee said, trying desperately to change the subject. I definitely wanted some snacks. Yeah, thank you. I also saw that she had carrots that were soft. Carrots played a big part of my stay at NDOC. They gave them to us every day, sometimes twice a day. In intake, we weren't able to microwave them. We weren't able to microwave them down. So we were just eating them hard, and that got exhausting. Her carrots had seasoning on them and everything. Then I looked beside the carrots and saw that she had made a carrot cake. I was like, what the hell? It had been a long time since I seen cake. And how the heck did she make that? I ate so many snacks in that moment. I was so happy. I told them it was my birthday and they all sang to me. It was a good moment, a blessing, and a wonderful welcome. I didn't always get along with my seven bunkies, but I will always be grateful and never forget that they made this moment, this day, awesome for me. It could have been so much worse, but it wasn't. I was just seeing God all around me. I knew then He had me. He was with me. He had my back. I got to this random bunk. I had come in with this girl named Katie, who was a who was a motor mouth. So I had come in with this girl named Katie, who was a motor mouth, feeling like she knew every single little thing about the prison, even though she'd never been there before. And she was also rubbing me the wrong way. She just wouldn't stop talking. She was just giving every thought she had through her rotten teeth. Her breath smelled atrocious. I had realized that my bed was across from hers and it caused me to be more irritable. I knew I need to find another bed, but I'd do that later. BK number one, okay, that's Katie. BK stands for baby killer. Okay. BK number one was a baby case. I knew I didn't know that coming in. A baby case is when someone comes in for killing their baby. She was definitely too chatty to be a baby case. You would think that she would be less talkative, but nope, not her. The ladies in my room seemed very familiar with one another. They were like a community, and then there we were, just joining in. I, at the time, wanted to fit into this room. I wanted to fit in with these ladies and have a peaceful environment in this experience. I know myself though, and I knew it would just it would just take one wrong statement, one wrong look, one wrong feeling. For that reason, I was very intentional in trying to get myself in check, and I felt like as long as I was able to do that, I should be okay. Again, that's just not how things turned out. Am I missing a page? Hold on. One, two. Let me see. It's not how things turned out. Okay. I went from packing my stuff to eat snacks to feeling awkward. It was one question after another from these ladies, and one thing that I was hoping is that they didn't ask about my case. Coming from social media reporting about my life to new strangers being worried about my life wasn't a direct desire. I wanted to be left the hell alone. I was actually enjoying one part about this jail stay, and it was my privacy. I literally was dealing with two ghetto white women who were stalking me before I came in, and countless made up stories on social media. They were so fake, I just stopped addressing them. And I said, anyone who believes these stories are just as much as an idiot as the people who sat back and created them. Before things had gotten too out of hand with the questions, I left the room to check the girls who came in with my group. To check on the girls who came in with my group. I'm sorry, I was writing real fast when I was in prison, so some of my handwriting is, yeah. They seemed to all be settled in, and there was one good thing about there only being one women's facility in the entire state of Nevada, which is everyone from every county, your neighborhood, online, and more, are all going to be in the same place. And it's this prison. I started seeing so many people I know, so many people the other girls knew. It was like a whole reunion. I wouldn't say family reunion, but nonetheless a reunion of women who were familiar with each other and chosen to go through this part of their journeys together in this place. I saw my friend Stacy from the county facility there. Stacy had gone to court with me. She heard and saw my entire case and witnessed my tears and my anger, my sadness and my moments that other people didn't get the privilege to see. We were literally shackled together. The only one that wasn't out of the room with the rest of us asking if everything was okay was BK number one. BK number one was suddenly acting like a recluse. I mean, this was a girl who talked entirely too much to begin with, and now she wasn't talking at all. It was hella strange. I just watched her from afar without making it so obvious. Nick, who was a stud that came with us, was very close to BK number one. He, as he liked to be addressed as a man, asked me how BK number one was fitting into the room. I said all was well. He seemed to me to be genuinely concerned about the girl, but I would soon find out that was very, very far from the case. I just wandered around the pod, sucking it all in. It felt great to be free from being locked in a cell and use the phone and walk around where I wanted to. I ended up seeing my intake part A bunkie. She was walking around trying to find her girlfriend. I guess they had met while they were in CCDC, so she just decided Felicia was her girlfriend. I met Felicia in the court holding room while I was at CCDC, and she had always been cool with me. But this time, when I went to say hello to her, she barely spoke back. My old bunkie Tammy seemed to have her all the way in check. I wasn't used to the whole jailhouse relationships between two women thing. It was the very first experience I ever had with it. I actually it actually was surprising to know that this is what was going on in this place. But mainly, all I could think about was Tammy's swamp ass and the other women being close up on that disgusting, uh, close up on that, comma, disgusting. That was my first traumatizing incident with the jailhouse relationship thing right there. So I was finding out who my bunkies were. It was City, who was the biggest black woman in the pod. Y'all remember that name. Y'all are going to hear so many stories about this woman. Anyway, it was City, who was the biggest black woman in the pod. D, who was the small Hispanic with the broken teeth from being on drugs. She was like the sewer and crafty one. Then there was Katie, BK number one, and then Saint, who was a ghetto white girl or could have been Hispanic as well. She claimed to be from Sicily. Justine, who was a white girl who we called Justin Bieber because she looked just like him. She also had no teeth from being on drugs. And Skip, who was a native from Reno, but she ended up in prison because they were out to get her. She was cuckoo. And then me. Come to think of it, not many people in this prison had teeth. They must have some great drugs in Nevada. I'm watching all my bunkies and all the girls. Oh, wait, I'm watching all my bunkies and the girl Tammy that I came in with when stuff started popping off. Okay. I'm watching all my bunkies and the girl Tammy that I came in with when stuff suddenly started popping off. If I never thought Tammy was crazy before, I knew for a fact she was crazy now. She and Felicia had been walking around talking to each other from what I had seen. And then an older lady named Carrie said hi to Felicia and Tammy flipped out. She was yelling and going absolutely crazy. She told Carrie she was going to fuck her up and all hell broke loose. Carrie was not scared of her. She was doing her best to hold her own, yelling and going in with Tammy. She was trying to meet the girl Tammy where she was at volume wise and aggression wise. I decided that since Tammy was my intake monkey, I may be able to calm her down. I walked over to Tammy and tried to calm her down by touching her shoulder, but it was just not working. The next thing I knew, she grabbed Felicia by the throat and choked the shit out of her. When I tell you my eyes bugged out of my head, I said to myself, I know this girl is not flipping out like this within the first few hours of us being in this pod with a woman that she hasn't seen in at least 3 weeks. We were in quarantine in the fish tank. I was mortified. I was like, let me go over here and mind my own damn business. One thing about being in Unit 1, which is the beginning of prison, is that the police are much harder on the inmates. They want you to know straight from the gate that they're not going to be tolerating the bullshit of the inmates. The police came in before we got over. The police came in. Before we got over here, they warned us, they being the police, warned us that if we get into one fight or they even catch us arguing and write it up as a fight, which they often do, that we would not make our first parole date. Parole boards in Nevada is a grueling process where three people ask about our cases, what we've learned, what we plan for our life, and they measure several accomplishments while we're in prison as well as behavioral challenges to determine whether or not we can be let out on parole for either of our parole dates. Nevada has a unique parole process where inmates actually have 3 different dates to choose from. One is called a PED, which is the first one. The next one is the MPD, which is the second one. And then there's the expiration. The good part for me is that all of my dates are fairly close to each other. One was November, the second one is February, and the third one is August. But other women have dates that are 3 years apart. It's hard for them, I'm sure. That just wasn't my experience, but I was scared for Tammy. The officers were yelling and cursing. Apparently, they had seen on camera that a crowd was forming around the two, Tammy and Felicia, and they knew something was going on. The crowd around them is what really saved them, if I'm being honest. The officers were trying their hardest to figure out what was going on, but it just wasn't happening. Apparently, the camera view was distorted because of the ladies that were gathered around Tammy and Felicia, stopping the police from seeing that Felicia had gotten the shit choked out of her. They were asking other inmates for details, but the other inmates were just shrugging their shoulders, walking off. No one was snitching in this pod. The police were stumped. As I looked around, I saw the lady Carrie in her room, far removed from the drama, which to me was very smart. The two other ladies had blended in with the crowd that had formed around them. The police were so upset they couldn't squeeze anyone for information that they locked the entire pod down. Lock down now, the officer was yelling. All the girls started retreating back to their cells, so I did the same. Back in the room, all the girls were wondering why the new bitch had choked Felicia. I was just silent, watching them discuss it, and I was glad that I hadn't made that type of first impression. The rest of the night, the ladies in my room laughed, played cards. I learned to play spades that night. Justin Bieber was just laughing with black feet on the floor while her with her mouth wide open, showing all her gums. But other than that, but other than me thinking a few of these women were cuckoo and cocoa puffs, everything went all right. We didn't fall asleep until about 3 a.m. We had to wake up at 5:30 a.m. for breakfast. That's chapter 1. What y'all thought about that chapter? Someone's blocking your comments, Galatians. Don't block Galatians' comments. That's my home girl. What did y'all think about that chapter? Sorry about my reading. I was writing fast as hell. Let me take a sip of juice. Sounds like quite an adventure, right? I'm gonna go into chapter 2. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, that's what I need right there. Motivation, because like after I'm coming out of it, I realized like this was hard for me. Like at the time, I was just writing down my experience, right? So for me, the the this book, this is the docu series as well. So I'm putting this to film as well. But it's more professionally written than my journal. My journal is raw. Like the same thing that you just read right there is it's the same experience, but it's totally different. It's my emotions about it. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you know what I mean? It's so my journal is so raw and so different. I would like to compare the two, but my stuff is in storage. So my dad was saving every single little thing that I sent to him, and all that stuff is in a tote in storage. But I got y'all. Thank you, Divine Motivation. All right, let's get into chapter 2. Okay. The next day, waking up was harsh. I mean, I was tired and worn out. I couldn't believe we stayed up playing cards and eating snacks and acting a fool until 3 a.m. in the morning. And on top of that, it was all in the dark. Yeah, they cut the lights out on us in that room about 11 p.m. Lights out is all I heard. I was like, it was like the sleepover that I never had. It was welcomed energy because being in the fish tank, all there was to do was sleep all day. So it was like, it was okay, at least for the moment. Breakfast was now being delivered to us in our cells, but we had to form a line to get it. I felt like a damn preschooler. It was very humbling. It gave me the opportunity to see every person in the pod as well. There were six 8-man cells and two 2-man cells. I guess y'all can do that math. And it was many women to four phones. The phone line was vicious. These girls were cutthroat about that phone. I decided to take a back seat and just watched how that scenario played out. And just like I suspected, it was bad. A girl named Brandy kept dialing different numbers over and over for 30 minutes. Brandy couldn't get anybody on the phone at all. We only get 30 minutes on every hour, and then the phone kicks us off. But because she hadn't connected, it wasn't counting her 30 minutes. Apparently the ladies were still counting though. Michelle walked up to Brandy and hung the phone up. She just snatched it right out of Brandy's hand and slammed it onto the receiver. Brandy had just had a baby in county right before she was transferred to the state prison, and the baby was no older than a month old. Being a new mother, she was worried about her baby and hadn't been able to get in touch with her husband for a day. She was clearly hurting and trying to track him down. I think she suspected him of cheating. All that anger she had in her just came out on Michelle. She went all the way off. She had a deep southern accent and ice blue eyes that were showing down to her soul. I felt bad for her. Michelle argued back for a little while until the other women seemed to have some sympathy for her situation and spoke up for her. Soon after that, it was time to do something I hadn't done in a very long time. It was time to go outside. The only time I had been outside, the only time I had even been close to going outside since I was arrested was at CCDC. They had covered an outside facility area, but the sun couldn't come in and no one could see out. The only reason why it was called outside was because we could feel the temperature of the day when we were in that portion of the facility. At NDOC, this was a real yard. This was a full yard with a track that we could walk on. There was a bench area where we could all play cards, an outside bathroom, and a water area. There was a gym on the inside, and the gym had exercise equipment, which at this time was a very big deal. Being in a facility like jail could mean that you are not allowed to exercise because it's a liability. Or it could mean that you don't have the space or mental energy from fighting for your life to exercise. It's a tough position to be in. While I was in county, I felt myself getting weaker by the day. I had been working out on and off. I had been working out on and off camera before I went to jail, and it was just something that had become a part of my schedule. I was excited to be on the yard. Things people take for granted, like just having natural air and sun hit your skin, was something I really cherished in this moment. I just stood there quiet a while and just soaked up the sun, smelling real air, watching people walk around, watching cars on the freeway. I could smell weed in the air from someone smoking loud and passing by on the freeway. It made me happy, made me remember there's a lot out there to still live for. The reason I say live for is because being in jail and the circumstances my surrounding me were tough. I was coming. It was coming from. Wait, I was coming from making $10,000 to $20,000 a month to realizing I wouldn't have any of that when I get out. It was a really tough spot mentally, and going to jail without even being able to explain because I was on probation already and simply having the police contact was enough for them to arrest me was hard. It was harsh. I was struggling with wanting to continue on. That had been something I battled with even before this happened. I know I'm blessed, but somehow at that moment I couldn't see it. On the yard, there was a guard in the bubble. People were linked up in their small little groups. I was there by myself, not being from Vegas, which is a small place, and being in prison with Vegas. I'm sorry, not being from Vegas, which is a small place, and being in prison in Vegas was a challenge. A lot of these women were friends and even families from the streets. These women clearly all knew each other. It was easy to pick apart someone who happened to come from Vegas and get stuck like I did. There's a saying that they have here: come on vacation, leave on probation. It's a well known fact that in Las Vegas, people from all over the world would get stuck here because of this justice system. I was one of them. We only had yard for 1 hour. It was just not enough, 1 hour a week. Even though these conditions were tough, that the fact that even though these conditions were tough, the fact that there was more freedom in prison than in county really made things easier. I couldn't imagine people spending life in a county jail. It makes a lot of sense to me now how people are surviving doing life in a prison. It could be a lot worse. The accommodations make it bearable. Thank God. PJ, BK number one, and Nick, whom I came into the pod with, were all hanging out in the yard, which was normal for them. They got very close during our fish tank experience. They were telling stories. They got very close during our fish tank experience. They were sitting around telling stories. I decided to make myself a part of their little group and just hung out with them. It was a good first day on the prison yard. Yeah, Marcy, we played spades. Yep. Okay. PJ is an older white lady, about 50 years old, who had been arrested for embezzlement. She stole about $100,000 from her job and turned her entire family against her. I'm sorry, she stole about $100,000 from her job and it turned her entire family against her. Plus, her boss put an article in the newspaper about her as well. PJ and Katie were bunkies in a fish tank, but we all rode from CCDC together and became familiar with each other. PJ won my heart because I understood her story. She was in an unhappy marriage. She was having issues with her children because of her life choices. But the way I saw it is that what she did to take care of her family was no different than a black man robbing a grocery store to feed his children. I watched her lose her children and her husband, who sided with her boss against his wife, and it broke my heart for her. We would hear her on the phone begging him not to throw her things out of their home, to let her speak to her kids and her grandkids. He even called her fat, which she wasn't. It was hard for me to hear. I think where PJ comes from, people like us are looked down on really harshly. I was glad to get close to her, but more than that, I was happy to see BK number one and Nick be her right hand men. She needed it. Back in the cell, it was like a never ending party. City was yelling to the top of her lungs, and another elder woman named Christina, who was about 70 years old, was literally twerking and giving up all the lewd hood culture that we could ever expect from her. She was in full storytelling mode. She told us that she was dating a 40-year-old black man who was a gangbanger. We all gasped when she said it. If he didn't gangbang, she didn't want him, she said. This man she met this man buying drugs, and they never separated from that moment on. Obviously, we all knew at that moment that it was unhealthy. She went on to tell us that she gave this man her car and even won a settlement since they had gotten together. After he spent up all her settlement money, she ended up hitting it pretty big with the lottery. This just put the relationship in a terrible place because he was showing her more and more that he was with her because of her money and not because of her as a person. But at this point, he'd already had her heart. You could only imagine me sitting there in shock. I had never been around these kind of people in my life. It made me realize how reserved I actually was. Christina wasn't Christina went on saying he started bringing around a lot of younger addicts and they would stay in her house. One black girl, he said, was his cousin, would constantly come with her Caucasian best friend. So one black girl that he said was his cousin would constantly come with her Caucasian best friend. but it felt weird because he wasn't interacting with his cousin like they were family. They came they came overnight. They came overnight and would sometimes get so wasted that they would spend the night at her house. They got so comfortable with each other, she began to let them be there when she was gone. Her neighbors began complaining to her mother, who owned the house and had power of attorney over her finances, that Christina was running a drug house. Mind you, this lady is 70, okay? Her boyfriend was making it worse, becoming aggressive with the neighbors, who would then go back and report it to the mother all over again. She eventually fell out with her mom, who threatened to put her in an apartment and kick her out of the house. She said he then moved his cousin and her best friend into the house, and they lived there for months before one night when they all got drunk and high. They fell out. When she woke up, she found him in bed with a Caucasian best friend. She woke them all up very violently, smacking and punching them, but she had misplaced her anger and started going off on the female cousin, who defended herself by admitting that she didn't even know this man and her best friend had been dating him for years. She was getting high for free just to come around and say she was his cousin so her best friend could be with her man. Christina was crying hard. Wait a minute. Christina was crying hard, having a full breakdown right there in the cell. She said she called the police to have them removed, but was arrested for assault and battery instead. While she had been here, he had her car, her house, and everything else, and was sharing it all with this young Caucasian girl. She said she just needed to call her mother so she could figure out how to get them out of her house. But unfortunately, her mother would not answer her calls. It was sad to me, but the other women seemed to have a reverse reaction than what I expected. It's like her story opened up the floodgates of hell in those women. I started seeing them making faces to each other and rolling their eyes. They were asking her questions. One girl was like, "Well, why didn't you get you a man your age?" I was just sitting there listening, but it made me realize this isn't a sensitive group or a welcoming group as I thought they were. Or this group isn't as sensitive or welcoming as I thought they were. They were definitely looking down at her. She and I made eye contact. They asked her why she dated gangbangers only. Does she date white men her age? Where are her kids? I mean, the uncomfortable questions that went on and on. It was quite embarrassing even for me, and it wasn't even my story. After that, she kind of withdrew from the group. Christina kind of withdrew from the group and stayed to herself. Then she came up to me and said, "These girls are crazy. I think we should stay to ourselves." Now, me being a new prisoner and coming into the pod with her, I thought, okay, that could be a good idea. I don't like being asked many questions, even in real life, not in the interrogation room, and definitely not from random women in a cell who have their own damn situations to focus on. We started being side by side. Christina would follow me on the yard from this point on. She would only talk to me in the pod and stay quiet in the cell unless she was reading to me one of her books that she felt was educational. You know, self-help type of things. And I felt like she wanted to read them out loud to show other ladies that she wanted to help herself after the story she told. She seemed afraid in the cell, sad on the phone, timid on the yard, or at least I thought. She got on the phone later that day. Christina had been trying to reach her boyfriend, her black boyfriend, and her mother for a very long time. She just didn't have any luck at first. Then suddenly she got a phone call that went through. Her mother had picked up. At first, she was on the phone so quietly that no one could hear what she was saying. Then suddenly she did something that I would have never expected. She erupted on the phone, screaming, yelling, pounding her fist, and she was extremely angry. It was like she wasn't herself at all. The old nice lady action that she was giving went right out the window. I could now see that part of her. I could now see that part of her that was traumatized and hurt. I could see the part in her that made black men attracted to her and her to black men. Her accent changed, her demeanor went from timid to hood real quick. She seemed about 20 years younger, and everybody around us was surprised. I could see girls starting to whisper to each other. At this point, she had blown holes through the innocent act that she was putting on. One of my new bunkies said, "Mm-hmm, right." It was like they all knew she was full of shit, and I was the only one thinking she was some older white lady who had gotten taken advantage of. I felt dumb. I felt played, and I had secondhand embarrassment. Who would have known things would turn out like that? Made me realize I needed to be a lot more observant in life. My assumptions or my naivety could lead me down some pretty bad paths in here. It definitely did out there. She changed after that, and I got played hard. So I felt like I had a friend in Christina, and I had shared some thoughts with her about my life, my career, my thoughts on the ladies in the room. I mean, my experience with them didn't leave the best taste in my mouth. I had a lot of opinions about a lot of issues, not being able to sleep, using the toilet and not wiping afterwards, knowing that there's eight of us. To me, that's nasty. Christina also talked to me about her life. I found out she blew up on the phone because her boyfriend out, wasn't out of her house with his girlfriend and her best friend, but instead the mother wanted Christine to leave Vegas and stay in Palo Verde with her father while she lets the boyfriend and his new girlfriend live in Christine's house and pay rent. They had been paying the mom double the rent to stay there while Christina hadn't paid her mother rent in years because her mom handled her finances. Because her mom handled her finances anyways. I would have been hurt as well. With the things I've been through, I completely understand how it feels to have a parent talking to someone considered an enemy who either tried or did put you in jail. It's not a nice feeling. I felt bad for Christina, and I felt like our understanding of each other made us bond even closer at that time. We were all playing cards later on in the day, having a good time and shooting the shit. Suddenly, we hear the pod door open and the officer starts reading off names. They called Christina. She looked at me and she looked at me and she felt like she was in trouble, so she seemed afraid. I could see a scared look in her eyes. She walks outside the room and the officer tells her she's in the wrong room and she should be in the room directly downstairs from us. So she rolls her stuff up. She starts to gather her things and she's crying. She's hugging me, she's crying and leaving her contact information just in case they decide to move her again. I helped her walk her things downstairs, and just like that, I was in my room alone again. Later that night, everyone found out I could sing. The mis- I mistake wait. Everyone found out I could sing. I must have been humming something. Oh yeah, joyful, joyful Lord. They were just asking me to sing different songs for them, and things got cool again. City, who was the big black woman in the pod, City had been telling war stories about her stay in prison. She said she used to throw bitches over the rails in the pod back in the day when she went to prison, and she did 20 years for killing her husband who was beating her. She talked in detail about her relationship then and her new man now. She would say, "He's that big," and do an arm gesture. We would all laugh. She claimed she owned a cafe in Vegas called City's Cafe and told Justin Bieber that she would give her a job because Justin Bieber was from Colorado and had no one out here. But she didn't want to be in Colorado anymore because the only person she was there for, which was her brother, had passed away. My dad had always taught me not to take certain situations home, like people you work with, people you live by. Don't bring them home. So I already knew this situation was a bust, but I was just listening. City had gone to stay with her son. City had gone on to say, excuse me, City had gone on to say that her son had got shot and killed before she came in, and she didn't get to go to his funeral or even mourn the loss of her son. She claimed to be a huge drug dealer in Vegas who had people after her, and they got to her son. Her other son tried to guard the deceased son and had gotten his fingers blown off in the process. So her other son tried to guard the deceased son and got his fingers blown off in the process. The son who's passed away had a baby who was born soon or after he passed, and she's never met the baby. I noticed the ladies in this prison don't want to share their charges. They just claim to have drug charges, which could or could not be a part of their real case. I will never know what city was really in there for because she definitely had more than one case. Anyways, she would leave the pod to go to court, come back and give us half-assed accounts of what actually was going on. She wanted to she wanted to what? She wanted to share, but she was just a liar. She was hiding something and no one knew what it was. City had a lot of friends in the pod. She was one of these Las Vegas natives who was born and raised here, raised her kids and grandkids here. So even if she was lying to us, it would all soon come out. City said Felicia was her cousin, the one who got choked. City said Felicia was her cousin. A girl in a two-man cell named Tay Tay was her niece. Stacy, who came with me, was her nephew's baby mama, which made her her niece as well. A woman named Q was her best friend, and it went on and on. She was definitely the type of woman that needed friends in order to feel validated as a person. City wanted to feel important, and it wasn't becoming, but I dealt with it because I didn't have an option. It just felt very thirsty. She seemed very needy. She needed to be needed, even if it was offering a fake job to Justina Bieber. The need to feel hard, even when she lied about murdering her ex-husband, was annoying. Stacks had walked Stacks had walked out the cell to go do her porting job. A porter is someone who cleans the pod before breakfast, before dinner, in exchange for less days a month, or a stay of days, which means your date won't move. Stacks didn't talk much when City was in the room, I noticed. She would pop her earplugs in and stay quiet. As soon as she walked out the room, City started telling us that she was a snitch. She had D and Justina Bieber looking like bubbleheads, looking like bobbleheads to get her point across with someone else to validate it. Apparently, Stacks can't get rolled up because she was being protected by the warden of the prison, according to them. They said Stacks was living with a man in the embassy suites. She and a girl named Smurf and her girlfriend Danger were supposed to set the men up to be robbed, but Stacks didn't want to be with him anymore after he beat her one night while she was high. When they went to rob the man, he pulled out a gun on them. Dangerous Smurf jumped the man and took the gun, and one of them shot him and he died. When Stacks was picked up by the police department, Stacks told them that her friends killed her boyfriend. They they killed her boyfriend trying to rob their home, and she had nothing to do with it. These are the type of people I was around. No one could even imagine the anxiety I had sitting around the very people I spent my life trying to stay away from. Sad. The fact that these women were discussing her like this, but would smile, make her coffee, act like they really cared for her, really told me everything I needed to know about this group of ladies. Sometimes while she talked, they would be looking at each other making faces. It just really made me not like this group of women. And being a blogger with people who follow me and judge me, make up stuff and all that, I didn't feel like I had a safe space around them. I just got quiet. That night, we all went out for tea, and I got on the phone and I talked to some other girls. I got on the phone and talked to some other girls in the pod. I was just doing my thing. I had hugged Christine and went back to my cell by the time the lights went out on us. That's the way the guards communicated with us, through the lights and buzzing doors. As I'm walking to the room, I hear the ladies get quiet. I realized they were talking about me. I said, "What's up?" They were all sitting around at the table. Dee said, "Christina told us what you've been saying about us." And my mouth dropped. Now everyone was against me. That was second chapter. It's just gonna be released as a book, just a book. But can y'all believe that? After all that stress with Christina and she telling this old 70-year-old white woman, and we should just stay to ourselves and let's not deal with them. They're rough around the edges. They're not used to being free. They don't have anything. All this stuff she said about them. And her following me around for days and days and acting like she was my friend and crying and giving me her contact information when they moved her out of my cell. And then now you move cells. I walk in my cell and the lady's like, Christina told us what you said about us. Really? Did she? Mm. Can y'all believe that lady did me like that? That was so crazy. So, will the entire thing be available in audio book format as well? Yes, it will. And we all know I'm getting ready to have AI read that. Girl, girl, I should have typed this before I started reading it. Those particular, or I should have read it from the typing because I can't barely even read my own handwriting. I was writing like chicken scratch. But that was chapter 1 and chapter 2. Y'all want to do one more chapter? Or should I save it for another video? Because we've been live for 2 hours, child. Let me see. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. Let me see. Let me see. I might do one more. Let me see how long this one is. I was really writing chicken scratch. All right. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me just go relieve myself. Hold on. I'm trying to get y'all some little soft music. I'll be right back. All right. My lotion is kind of thin. Okay. Yes, 2 more? Okay. You think I have a hit on my hands? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I like the little soft music right now because it zens me out. You know what I mean? Like, it's different than to like be going through this experience and then having to read it back. It's just like, it takes you back there. So the Zen music is good for me. And I done drank all my juice. Dag on it. I need some juice. Okay. All right. So, chapter 3. Yeah, it was rough during this time. I mean, I didn't know these women, and I really wanted to get along with everybody. We have a saying in prison. It goes, I'm going to be strong. People, including the cops, called the prison Prisony Land. Prisony Land was a name I had been hearing since I first found out I was arriving from CCDC. I was nervous as hell, and the officer was very dismissive to my stay. He was like, "You got baby time at Prisony Land. Woman, relax." I was thinking to myself, this man is so used to this lifestyle of prison that he actually feels like it's normal enough to call it Prisony Land and to call 2.5 years baby time on top of that. On days like this day, when all the women I was bunked up with had issues with me, it didn't quite feel like Prisony Land. And that one day felt more like 1 year. So I'm walking in the cell and the ladies suddenly get quiet. Because of the way I was raised up with a certain side of my family constantly nitpicking at everything I did and deciding to talk about it instead of talking to me about it, I became hypersensitive to situations like this. I, on one hand, don't necessarily welcome all these women into my grill. But wait, don't necessarily welcome all these women into my grill. But I was happy that they were addressing me directly so that we could talk past this issue. I said, "What's up?" They told me that Christine, the woman that I had been talking to about all my feelings about what was going on in the pod, the woman I had been talking to about my feelings about what was going on in the pod, that I had comforted when she cried about her young black boyfriend that had his young girlfriend living in her childhood home with them, who stole her car and blah, 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 went back and told these women everything I had been saying. Dee said she walked up to her and Justina Bieber and started telling them all types of shit. She told them I said they were all drug addicts, and I feel like they are all drug addicts who feel like they have a voice in prison because on the streets they would never have one. That I said they were trying to bully people who would never even acknowledge their existence in real life. That I said, why don't they have teeth? Many of the women in this facility didn't have a tooth to chew with because of the amount of drugs they did. I had never seen that many drug addicts in one place, and I for sure think the drugs in Vegas hit a lot different because every 5 out of 6 women were suffering from gummivitis. I mean, they gums needed to invite their teeth back into their mouth. Christine had said so many things. This woman has some nerve. Because of who I was, I didn't even want to go into what Christine had said about them. I feel like that would only make it seem like we were just having an all-out kiki about them, and that wasn't true. At this point, I was so upset with Christine. I contemplated confronting Christine, but that would just be another story for her to go back and tell, and I wasn't doing that. I'm very used to people going behind my back and saying little stuff because they want to cause a reaction. I wasn't giving Christine a big reaction or the girls in my cell. I wasn't giving Christine a big reaction or the girls in my cell. Dee waited for me to respond and I just couldn't. Really, there was nothing for me to say. I just stood there and looked at them like, now what? Dee said, what goes on in our room stays in our room no matter what it is. I was like, okay, but they weren't satisfied. They were truly upset, and City was instigating and waking them up even more. She said, nah, if you thought you was getting a pass on that, you wasn't. I got scared for real. City is a big girl. I wasn't going back down, however. Whatever was going to play out, I was just going to have to deal with it. In the middle of that situation, the doors popped. I walked up to Christine and asked her why. Why did you decide that that was okay? Why was that something she would do to someone who was literally rocking with her? I was less I was less pissed and more disappointed. I felt like she could tell the difference. Christine told me the ladies came up to her and asked her if I'd been talking about them. And she said she felt pressured to tell them the truth. She said she felt intimidated and felt like they already knew, so she might as well tell them anyway. I started to see her differently. I started to notice Christine was like a little girl. She was also a pushover who needed to be accepted with everything I knew, who needed to be accepted. She was also a pushover who needed to be accepted. And with everything I knew about her and everything I had found out in that moment, I knew beyond a shadow of the doubt that it was the reason why she was in her current personal situation and why we were in our this current prison situation. After that situation, I stopped talking to Christine. I felt like because of all the things I had been through on the internet and dealing with a few people that were just complete clowns when it came to secrets or personal business, that I was used to betrayal, used to being talked about, but wanted someone who was a safe space to speak to. I did not have that with Christine. I started noticing Christine talking to the women and avoiding me as well. So I left it there. I decided to get on the phone. Mind you, I hadn't been pressing the issue of the phone because I wanted to see how the whole thing worked out. So I played the background. This time I needed to talk to someone who knew me in this moment. I was hoping to reach DYS. Y'all know who that is? Y'all know who DYS is? That's what her channel used to be called. That's this lady right here. I was hoping to reach DYS. I'm dialing and she's not picking up, so I decided to keep hanging up and dialing other phone numbers. My dad, my brother, Xavier, a few more people. For some reason, I just could not get through to anyone. I think I called Dana J too, and he was at work. I decided to talk to someone before I gave any reaction to my situation, but I felt it bubbling inside me, especially when I couldn't reach anyone to vent. I felt myself getting upset. So I'm dialing, and Carrie walks up to me. She's standing over me while I'm sitting on the floor and says, "Other people need to use the fucking phone. We got family and kids too. Get your ass off the phone." Now, Carrie is the woman my intake bunkie went off on about her girlfriend. She old, gray, wobbling around. I said, "Stop fucking talking to me and back the fuck up out of my face." She was standing over me while I was on the floor with the phone to my ear. Had she wanted to kick me in my face, she had every opportunity. Situations were escalating by the second. Carrie was relentless. She didn't give a damn if she was old, gray, and could never whoop my ass if she tried. Instead, what she did was use the intimidation tactic that I wasn't aware of at this time. She said, "All right, watch when we get to the yard. My homies ain't gonna hear that shit." Even though I hadn't shown it at the time, I felt intimidated for sure. I kept imagining in my head that who these random homies could be. "Girl, I don't give a damn," was my response. I just didn't want her to see me sweat, but she definitely made me uncomfortable with that statement. I was thinking she must have some huge crew of friends that are just waiting to get to the yard so they could whoop them some ass. I just sat at the phone and kept making phone calls. I refused to get punked by these women because the amount of work that I've done being in the system with mental health counseling, psychology, I know that these women who stalk, intimidate, and bully other people are suffering from some personality disorder, which is classified as a mental health issue. So that's the way I viewed her. On a spiritual level, it was also demonic, and also a lot of demons show up through mental health issues in the first place. Carrie decided to walk across the pod and start talking to one of my bunkies, Justina Bieber. Carrie was loud, yelling and pointing at me, trying to make sure that I knew she was talking about me on the phone in our whole little incident. She was just annoying. Now looking back, I know she was acting like that because I was new to this process. Had I been someone else that she'd seen before, or that my bunkie hadn't told her it was brand new to this prison, she wouldn't have acted like that at all. It was kind of a hazing type of thing. I didn't know that at the time. She was yelling and just going on and on. I got irritated. I have a super short temper and limited patience for bullcrap. I started yelling loud as fuck, yelling at her and whoever else was around her. I knew everybody knows. I know everybody knows, shut the fuck up, is what I said. I was just so upset. I was frustrated from not being able to reach anyone. I was frustrated that Carrie was like a fly who wouldn't stop trying to get to my meat. She was just buzzing around like she had nothing else more productive to do. She was provoking me in ways that I said I wouldn't let anybody do when I first arrived here. I rolled my eyes and kept dialing, trying to reach someone. I must have dialed my dad's number about 10 times. I also felt like if I got off the phone in that moment, Carrie might feel like she punked me off the phone and she would keep doing it every time I got on it. I had watched plenty of shows. I heard many things about being in prison settings and letting little stuff like that pass, so much so that people decided to run with it. And I was ultimately determined not to be one of those people. That's when Justina Bieber started yelling at me across the pod. Now, this I didn't expect. I had no clue why they were about to team up on me like this. I had no clue that they were about to team up on me like this outside the cell. And the last thing I wanted was the pod to turn against me, but it was looking like that's exactly what it was about to what was about to happen. Justina Bieber was yelling, "Okay, stop yelling. Other people are using the phone." Now, this is a white girl with short blonde hair and one tooth. I had I had an option to look at that two different ways. One way was that she was a tough cookie and had probably been through a lot of stuff. She had probably been in situations and seen and done things that I couldn't imagine. So I might want to just watch myself. Another way was that she's a drug addict who now has a voice and wants to reunite with her fellow drug addict team to seem tough in this circumstance because the streets they're considered the lowest of the low. Many addicts in here had already said they would rather be here than on the streets because at least they have rights that people can see. They wanted to have a voice plus three hots and a cot. Well, here they are using that voice is what I was if well, here they are using that voice is what I could have thought. I started yelling back. So why is she not bothering them then? Justina Bieber didn't have a response to that. It was a logical question. Because why you on me when you could be bothering everybody else? I'm just saying, why are you worried about me being on the phone, right? But she instead started to talk to Carrie again. Oh, it's gonna play out. It's a docu-series. It's gonna play out just as such. Just wait for it. She instead started talking to Carrie again. They were just throwing their hands up, looking in my direction and more. I was livid. I won't lie. I was in my head. I was on my hood goblin tip. I was just waiting for them to get bold enough so I could take out they one tooth having ass. Oh wait, I was just waiting for them to get bold enough so I could take out that one living tooth. I was that upset. The lights went out and it was time for us to lock back down. I walked to my cell and once again they were in the room talking about none other than your girl. I decided that this time I wasn't going to do the logical thing and talk shit out. I was pissed and I was ready to box whoever wanted the issue. Justina Bieber and Dee were talking quietly to each other off in the corner. City was making faces like she just knew some stuff was about to pop off, and Katie was whispering in City's ear. As soon as I got on my bunk, Justina Bieber felt like she was about to check me, and it didn't happen. This is the issue with letting things happen even once in this situation. They really thought we was about to have another kumbaya with them checking me and telling me any damn thing. The fact of the matter is, I wasn't doing anything different than anybody else. I wasn't having it this time around. As soon as they thought they was about to have someone to victimize again over here, just to build their own egos and make themselves feel powerful, I popped the fuck off. I popped off hard. I was going in so hard that I ran out of breath yelling and cursing. Then when Katie was like, "Shut up, I have a headache," baby, she got a face full that she didn't expect after that. I jumped down off my bunk, the top bunk, mind you, could have broke my damn leg. So I jumped down and slid my shoes off. My fists were balled up, and I was like, "Come make me shut up, bitch." I walked to the middle of the cell. If I was white, I would have been maroon at that point by how upset I was. So I'm in the middle of the floor telling her to come get her issues. Since she not getting up, I walk over to her and I give her the classic slap with each word that I said. Make me shut up. She didn't move. So I was like, exactly, bitch. So stop showing out for these bitches. Everybody was surprised. They didn't expect me to pop off like that. They made it impossible for me to stay nice to them. I feel like I'm an extreme person. I'm extremely happy, or I don't like you to the extreme, or so on. I could only imagine what they felt about me being that way. I could only let me read this over. I feel like I'm an extreme person. I'm extremely happy, or I don't like you to the extreme. So I could imagine what they felt about me, being that the initial impression of me was probably that I was extremely nice and chill. But nah, I flashed on them bitches for real. From there, I decided not to even get back in my own bed because I was still on ready. What I did was I put on my head rag and sat on my box facing them. I just stared at them while they all talked. I didn't say a word, I just glared hard. I felt like I was bullying them now. How I went from being the punk to the bully, I don't know. But looking back at it now, to tell you the truth, I wouldn't change a thing. Now they could see what they were dealing with. Like, hello, nice to meet you. So I'm sitting on my box staring at the ladies while they move around, talk, do whatever they're doing. And that's when I see Justina Bieber and Dee, who seem to be together quite a bit talking. I see them visibly trying to give me cues, like I should be scared to get beat up or something. They're literally looking at me like, she need to be careful. I wasn't having any of that shit. I didn't care what they was talking about or none of that. I was straight up on one, but nobody was moving nothing. So I was really trying to calm myself down. I had finally got back up on my bed. They had brought our dinner out, which, by the way, they served at 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon, in which I thought was just absolutely ridiculous. So we were all in our beds. I decided at this point I wasn't talking to anyone. I had lost my I lost my desire to get along. I lost the desire to smile and fake like I was having a good time, even to play cards. I just wanted them all gone. I was determined to just thug it out. Little did I know at that time that doing time upset or beefing makes the days go by slow. The saying, funny how time flies when you're having fun, is so true. It's one of those things that's very clear when you're locked up. Another thing I didn't know was that these women are unstable, and what I thought was going to be an ongoing situation quickly was brushed under the rug. I'm sitting on my bed quietly, wishing and hoping for a book. Dee walks up to me and says, "You got to get off that bunkie, before you become depressed. Tomorrow you got to come play cards with us." My eyebrows, I'm sure, showed how confused I was. Before tomorrow came, City was asking me, did I want to be her partner in spades? I didn't know what made me agree to be her partner, but I got my stubborn ass off that bed and sat at the table to play cards with my wishy-washy ass bunkies. And I had a good time doing it. So now, time. So now it's time to actually go to bed, and I see Katie and City whispering to each other. I have a really bad phobia of people talking about me behind my back while I'm in the room. So I often assume people are talking about me. I was like, "Katie, if you got something to say about me, you can say that shit in my face." She said, "I'm not talking about you, Diamond." City looked sad and annoyed. That's what made me truly believe they weren't talking about me. For real. They weren't talking about me for real. They continued to whisper. It irritated me for no good reason, so I decided to get in the middle of their conversation. But before I could do that, City jumped up out of her bed and said, "Hell no, that's my best friend." City started banging on the window, trying to get her best friend Q's attention that was in the neighboring cell. City knew a lot of people in that prison because she was their drug dealer on the outs. She also was on crack and rode with a lot of gangbangers who sold and did the drugs with her. So the girl in the immediate cell next to hers, named Tay, would also get alerted when she heard how City was banging on the windows. Everyone started coming to their windows to be nosy. I assume they thought there was a fight in our cell. One thing about being in jail is that people watching is definitely a thing. Not everyone has a TV, so they resort to watching each other for entertainment. City yelled out the door, I need to talk to you about some real shit. Stop talking to these bitches. Don't say another word to them hoes. Right then, I knew that PJ was in that room and she was the only person who talked to Katie like that. So Katie's stank breath, coughing teeth ass must have said something to throw PJ under the bus or had repeated something that PJ said to her to City. Katie was still sitting on her bunk looking guilty as hell. Katie is disgusting to me. I never liked her, but this took the cake. The next day, we headed out to yard early morning. Girls were trying to hurry up and make it outside so they could see what all the fuss was about. This was the first time I decided to sit with the black girls because Carrie and her threats. But I was uncomfortable. They were talking about jail and how the politics and they were talking about jail now, politics and whispering to each other, talking rough like gangbangers and all that, which I'm not interested in. Katie was called over by City and Tay. She was turning all kinds of colors, walking over to this slew of black girls. She was visibly scared. She walked up to the ladies. I was still sitting on the sideline, just looking and listening. In the middle of all that ruckus, my inmate Bunky's girlfriend looked at me with a twisted mouth and made me realize she was doing drugs too. She was on drugs too. She says, now you know you better than what happened last night. You better get in that Bible. I just looked at her and wondered if she heard me going off in my cell, or heard about it from them. I said, you're right. Then I heard City yell out, tell me what she said. She was loud, even though we were by a busy freeway and Nellis Boulevard. I could clearly hear her yelling across the yard. The guards sat there like nothing was going on. Katie and City, along with City's little goons, walked up to PJ. My eyes were wide. I was genuinely afraid for PJ, and all this was happening because of her own friend, BK number one, Katie. Makes you realize there's no true alliances in this place. PJ is explaining herself to them. I'm thinking she should just shut it down and say she don't know what the hell they talking about, but she didn't. She decided to keep feeding into their bullshit. PJ was almost in tears. Q was crying, and I was trying to figure out what was going on. Tay was like, I'm ready to beat these hoes up, so what's that? Then they took off walking towards PJ again. All of a sudden, the guard wanted to act like he was at work. He shut the yard down due to activities he saw. I walked up to Carrie before she got up. I said, excuse me, but I wanted to apologize for yelling at you about the phone. I know we all have families and that we're trying to talk to. I understand how hard it is in here. To my surprise, she was like, I'm sorry for yelling at you too. I know you just got here and haven't had the chance to use the phone, and I'm older than you. I shouldn't have came at you like some young ass fool. We shook hands, and I helped carry her chair back to its spot. It was a good moment for me. I was happy to get that monkey off my back, but also whatever focus was on us was now on City, Katie, and PJ. I was just happy not to be the center of attention in the pod anymore. Friend, I'm live still.
Okay, I'm ready again. This how I be looking when I before work.
You look pretty as hell.
Everything be gone.
Okay, period. But I'm gonna call you.
See my face?
I do. I'm gonna call you as soon as I get off. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So I was just happy that whatever focus was on us, was now on City, Katie, and PJ. And I was just happy not to be the center of attention in the pod anymore. When the ladies fell back in the pod, I caught up with PJ. I said, PJ, what the hell is going on? She said Katie threw her under the bus and told City that she was telling people that City's best friend Q had AIDS and no one should be eating after her. Apparently, Q was sharing with the ladies in her cell the same way everyone else shares food in their cells. The difference was Q was HIV positive. Q was still crying when I looked at her after hearing that. I don't think she expected people to find out. She looked ashamed. What I found out was that my intake bunkie had her man look up Q's medication, and when she found out what it was for, she told PJ, who was her direct bunkie. Then PJ told Katie, who threw Katie under the bus. PJ told Katie, who threw her under the bus, and told City. The crazy part about that is that my intake bunkie then start sniffing those same pills, claiming they got her high. Like, wow. PJ felt very afraid of my intake bunkie to the point where she just took the blame for this whole thing in order to not face heat from my intake bunkie who came in choking her girlfriend, not to mention other people who probably have her back. The whole thing was a hot mess. I felt bad for PJ and disgusted by Katie once again. Katie would become an ongoing problem for both PJ and I throughout this long jail term. That was chapter 3. Girl. Okay? It's that bitch Katie. BK number 1. Baby killer. Cannot stand that skeezer. But yeah. So that was 3 chapters, y'all. And the rest, if it was not for the Lord on my side, where would I be? Girl. Girl. Because that experience was absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. But I'm glad I'm getting a chance to read. I got the chance to read those first 3 chapters out loud because it helps me to see there's some wording that I need a little bit of to do some changes to. Yeah, I got a lot of shit to do though. Because like typing the whole thing up and all of that stuff is so time consuming. It's wild. But I think she does too. I can understand that. What a testimony of strength and resilience. Facts. This plays out like a movie, exactly, and that's why it's going to be available docu-series style and then movie style on Teahive movie night. I'm all interested and don't want it to end. I can't wait for the whole true story to be released. Yes, it will be very soon. I'm typing. One more chapter. One more chapter. All right. I'm going to do a half a chapter. I'll do a half a chapter. We're going to do one half a chapter. All right. Hold on. Let me find it. Okay. All right. I'm going to do a half a chapter for you. You're welcome. My lips, Vegas be making me dry, like my lips. I'll be having to constantly stay lotioned. Hot. Okay. I'm gonna do. All right. One more. That's it. Oh. And True Talks is becoming Talks backup channel. So just know that. So there's 2 of them now. So there's True Talks, TRUH, and then there's Talks. So just know that, okay? Your writing does what the reader wants to maybe feel like we are with you throughout your experience. Right, absolutely. Okay. As things started to normalize for me in this pod and people actually started to speak to me and realize who I was, which was not a punk or a pushover, but actually a very nice person who was in a situation that wasn't normal for me, things with Katie were getting worse. Katie was constantly up under City. She was becoming messier and messier to the point where her entire personality changed and she was unrecognizable. It was really hard for me not to call Katie out on her bullshit. I just felt like if I said something to her about it, she would blow it up and involve other people and then start targeting me and me being in the mental space I was in, I would have truly been the wrong one because I was in a space where I would wreck some shit. Katie was starting stuff with everyone because she felt like she was protected by City. At the same time, she had Nick, who she considered one of her good friends, or at least I did. They had gotten close the entire intake process to the point where sometimes him being a porter in the prison would slide her stuff and give her messages and extra food. She was definitely feeling the benefits of being his friend, close friends with someone who was working for the jail. I had already tried to fight Katie, so she was walking around talking about that with the rest of the pod every chance she got. I really didn't care about Katie and her bullshit. The only thing I cared about was that she had been in CCDC for 6 years already, and I didn't know who else she knew in the prison that would possibly team up with her against me. I was, however, prepared to both advocate for myself and stand up against whoever came up against me, no matter how many girls it would be. To my surprise, Katie was actually not talking about me the next day, but instead she was talking about Nick. Nick is a bald head, heavyset woman that genuinely feels like a man inside. Therefore, Nick identified as a man. He had plenty of women trying to be with him, but claimed to have a stable girlfriend at home and said he wasn't a cheater and would never step out on her. Katie had been buzzing around a lot of women who thought Nick was cute, though. I saw Katie overstepping her boundaries with Nick, but I didn't say anything to her. I would eventually talk to Nick, though. Katie was walking around trying to repel the ladies from Nick. She was telling people that they were together. I knew that was not true because Nick made it clear in intake he, for one, had a girlfriend, and for two, he was not into Katie. Katie had a mouthful of dead teeth and her breath smelled like dead bodies. I don't have to be gay to know that Nick and I both know he could do much better than that. Katie had started moving weird. Every time she made herself something to eat, she would give some to Nick. He was stupid enough to accept it, in which was a huge mistake. In the prison, in the prison world, being in a relationship with someone is identified by sharing food with them, eating food with them, writing and passing notes with them, and them having access to your kiosk login information. Nick not only had been accepting food from Katie, but I had also been sitting around eating with her. Mind you, Katie is new to the prison as well, and some of the other women that was into Nick were heavy into their sentence. These girls had TVs, MP3 players, food, stores, extra clothes, extra shoes, and just overall more to offer Nick than Katie. So I felt like he was a fool. By the time Nick realized he would have ruined, by the time Nick realized this, he would have already ruined about 5 potential relationships. Amanda walked up to Nick later that day. From what I know, she asked Nick if he was with Katie, and Nick said no. She told him some things that Katie had been doing and saying to keep people from talking to him. Nick was pissed off. He was so mad he turned completely red in the face. I just remember him walking up the stairs to our room to get Katie. When she saw Nick at the door for her, she turned around and made a smiling face towards us. She crossed her eyes and stuck her tongue out in pleasure. And we were like, oh, okay then. But when they walked out of the room, things went left. Nick towered over her and pointed his finger in her face. You could visibly see her facial expression change. She went from happy to scared quick. Nick began yelling at the very top of his lungs that she was delusional. He called her disgusting and a manipulator, a broke bum, told her she didn't have a chance in hell with him, and just overall embarrassed the hell out of Katie. I wasn't mad at him because I don't like Katie, and Katie was red, crying, and upset. She ran back into the cell. She was crying hard. Amanda and her crew was downstairs laughing loud enough that it was clear that they wanted Katie to hear them. I was just surprised that it all went down like that. Katie sat in the room for the rest of the day without even getting out of bed to eat. The next day, City was due to leave for court. She was coughing and acting like she was so sick for sympathy once again and begging people to make her coffee, get her clothes, warm up her sink water. She was so annoying and needy, but wanted to play tough girl so bad. Stack made City's coffee with a smile on her face, like she was happy to do it. I just didn't understand. They were hustling to get her hair done and get her clothes ready for court. They may as well brushed her teeth for her too. Ugh. She was she was called over the speaker to leave for court. Finally, I was thinking I needed a break from her energy for a second. I was super happy she was leaving. What I didn't expect was the cheering when she walked out the door. The same girls who were running behind her, agreeing with her every word, said, with her every word, agreeing with every word she said, and making it a point to be up under her, were cheering that she left. To my extra surprise, Katie was cheering. I don't know if that was because she was happy or if it was because she was a follower. The girls were jumping and celebrating. I just had to be the one to ask the question. I said, "Oh, y'all happy y'all homegirl gone?" Everybody, and I mean everybody, all six of these women gave me an earful. They were like, "She a negative bitch in this cell. She keep mess going. We only help her to hurry up and get her the fuck out of here. She a liar. She need attention. She doesn't really own a restaurant." I mean, it was a lot. The ladies claimed they were afraid to show her they had certain kinds of foods or snacks because she was begging all the time. When I tell you my eyebrows went up, I'm not used to this type of fakery. At least the people around me who don't like me lets it be known that they don't like me. I realized right then that even when I thought I had pegged these girls' personalities, I really didn't. And I would just have to adjust the entire perspective I had about these people I was around. Just crazy. Now, these types are the ones to be afraid of. Yikes. Now that city was gone, what the fuck did I say? Now that city was gone, I was opening up a lot more, talking more, and acting more social than before. Oh, I think this is who the fuck did I say? I don't realize my handwriting. Now that city was gone, I forgot who that was. Oh, D. D was opening up a lot more. She was acting. I had to remember who it was. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so now the city was gone, Dee was opening up a lot more, talking more and acting more social than she had before. She decided that she would share the story of how she got locked up with all of us at lockdown time, which started us off having a very open and honest conversation with each other. We all got into our bunks and began this clean conversation with which actually helped us all bond. Dee started it off. Dee was a very short Hispanic woman. Despite her being very skinny, she still was out of shape. She had a mouth full of black rotted teeth, but she had a beautiful thick black textured hair that many women would be jealous of on the streets and pay for. She knew this was her best feature. She was super talented when it came to sewing, envisioning things she could sew together. She was hustling all over that prison. She was also hustling all over the streets. When she began telling her story, she got super emotional as she started speaking. She said she was around 35 years old when she met this young man who was about 10 years younger than she was. She was out on the streets. She felt sorry for him. Plus, she herself was lonely and admittedly desperate, so she let him come to her home for a few nights a week to spend the night. They would have sex. He would cook in her kitchen, even though she was the one buying the groceries, and he was a great listener to begin with. After some time passed, he began to change, but she was old enough to know that that was normal, so she didn't trip. She didn't trip on it. But he started to be in the bathroom for 4 or 5 hours at a time. So one night she decided to bust in on him and he was shooting up drugs. Instead of her leaving, she asked him, instead of her leaving or asking him to leave, she decided to ask him to shoot her up with him. He put the belt around her arm with no hesitation. He didn't try to stop or convince her that she shouldn't do it at all. He seemed more than happy to turn her into a drug addict. He filled the needle up and injected her with drugs. Many women don't get shot up or shoot up as a first experience with drugs. That was shocking to me. Dee says she overdosed and died from that injection, and he had to call the ambulance. The ambulance made it to her apartment only to find that he left the needle hanging out of her arm and her on the floor bathroom. She was given a Narcan and taken to the hospital where she spent more than 3 days trying to recover from this fatal dose of trash he gave to her. She described the hospital as an unpleasant experience where the nurses spent more time judging her and talking about how she got there than caring for her. I've actually experienced the staff at a hospital making subliminal statements about certain people who've come in under bad circumstances, so I did sympathize with her. Dee said when she was in the hospital, her boyfriend didn't come visit even once, and neither did her family, who didn't want to be seen with her at that point because she was there for an overdose. She went through dying and being brought back to life completely alone. When she got released from the hospital, she had a taxi take her home, which clearly was something that made her feel down. She got back home and he was nowhere to be found. She called him and he never picked up his phone. Then one day he suddenly popped up at her door. She answered it and he just walked in the house like it was normal, but she was appalled. She began to argue with him, but something happened that she wasn't prepared for. He pulled out a syringe that was already loaded. Dee described a feeling of being flushed rolling through her body. She said she felt like she had to take a bowel movement just from seeing the syringe. She craved it and wanted it so bad, she didn't even care that she had just almost died from the first experience. She immediately stopped arguing with him and offered her arm to him. He took his belt from around his waist, wrapped it around her arm, and shot her up with a drug once again. Dee says she melted into the couch. She was stuck in a trance so bad that she couldn't close her eyes if she tried, but she also couldn't see anything in front of her. She stayed like that on the couch for hours and eventually days while he went through her dresser, her closet, her DVDs, and more, taking things and putting them in his backpack. And then he left, leaving her on the couch all alone. She used the restroom on her couch and made several attempts to get up, but she couldn't. Eventually, she came to, and when she did, she was mortified at what she saw. And not only that, but what she had put herself through once again. She started taking her clothes off and jumped in the shower. She described it like needles prickling her skin. She said it was so cold that it felt like she had hypothermia, and she turned on the water, scorching hot. And by the time she got out of the shower, her skin was peeling and burned, but she couldn't even feel it. Then she had to tackle her couch. She threw away her clothes and her couch cushions, loaded them in a black bag, and walked outside, not realizing she looked a hot mess with cracked up lips, dried, shuffled hair, and burnt skin. She went to the trash can and says it embarrassed her that even the trash man asked her if she needed him to call some help. She walked fast back to her apartment. Her skin started to peel more this time. She could feel it. Her skin started to peel more, and this time she could feel it. She was in horrible pain. She shuffled through her drawers for some kind of cream, any cream or ointment that could give her relief, which triggered a memory of her boyfriend taking her belongings while she was high. She found her phone and dialed his number. To her surprise, he answered the phone, and she began to go off on him. Why? She asked him. Where are my things? She yelled in the phone. He started to yell back in the phone that he took her things because she'd been getting high off his dope. She says he told her dope ain't cheap, and he took her items as a payment. She said, well, why didn't you let me choose what I wanted to give you? Hold on. She said, well, why didn't you let me choose what I wanted to give you? He told her when she becomes an addict and starts doing other people's drugs to the point where she falls out, she doesn't get to choose what items are taken, and that she should have been awake to choose them. She cried simply because even after looking for what he took, she was so high that she still didn't know what was missing. She found herself trying to get back into her room and trying to get back into her norm, but she still had that monkey on her back. She had to go find some drugs with or without her boyfriend. She set out on a mission after struggling to get her clothes on. She says her muscles were getting sore and she was experiencing being dope sick off of just 2 hits of whatever drug he was injecting into her. She walked out the front door she walked out the front door of her home on a mission to identify the drug he was giving her. She knew it wasn't crack. If it wasn't coke, She figured since it almost killed her, it could have been a few things. She walked up to the first homeless addict she saw and she asked about drugs. He looked at her like she was absolutely crazy. She was embarrassed, but that didn't stop her from asking every addict on that block until it got to the point that they were all talking to each other about her, and all shunning her requests for drugs. They thought she was some kind of undercover cop. Meanwhile, her conditions were worsening. That's all I'm reading. That's it. That's it. That's all. Anyway, I have to head out, boo, but keep up the awesome work. Have a blessed weekend. I'm going to take you to dinner when I come to Vegas. God bless. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, I'm glad for, I appreciate all of you guys who hung with me on this video. We're going on 3 hours being on video. Okay, period. We was up here for a little minute. But let me see. I want that comment up there because I don't have my live replay. When am I going to read again? Well, darling. Well, Jennifer, darling. I'm not really sure. I don't really know. I don't want to read too much of my book out loud. I have a lot of things to read, you guys. You know what I'm saying? But as far as like this book, I don't want to read it in order like that again out loud. Like I just read you 3.5 chapters and they were in order. If I read again, it would be out of order. You know what I'm saying? Because I do want, even though I want you guys interested in the book and in the book reads, I don't want to read it all before it's published. Like my goal is to get it all copywritten and typed out and everything first. Thank you so much. But no, I feel like, so at first, so I get a little bit emotional, right? Like writing that and going through it at the time and like just writing down stuff. You guys are going to see like later on in the docu-series that people begin to come to me. I would read them my docu-series. I would let them see what I'm writing, and I would write about them. And and people will start coming to me in the prison to tell me their story so I can write it as well. And a lot goes down. So I only wrote 2 books of this, but I have it's going to take me like over 10 books to complete the story. Like straight up. It's going to take me over 10 books to complete this full story. They're broken down by pod. So, unfortunately for me, I was moved around hella times. I went around the whole prison twice. I've been in every single unit, every single pod twice. So, I have a lot of experience. Really, it's going to take me like over 15 of those books to finish that experience. I'm going to try to merge some, but it's hard too. But you guys will see like even Q, right? So the girl Q, who they said was HIV positive, she got out. She's going to disappear for a while out of the story. And then she comes back. So she gets reintroduced back probably around the 5th book. You know what I mean? City, she got out twice. She came back different every time, and now she's back for murder. So you guys will see, like when I find out towards the end of my stay, and that'll be plenty books down the line, my reaction when I find out she's back for murder. But then also when I publish my journals, and I'll tell you guys what those are going to be called later. But when I publish my journals, you'll get the chance to get like a different angle of my reaction. So it's the way I put it together, bro. And I don't know that's why I said, this ain't nothing but the grace of God. This ain't nothing but the grace of God, because the way that I put it together was so genius. Man, I'm like, I did that. wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really, the way I put it together is so genius. You guys are going to be able to match this person from this book and this story and me venting about it personally with this story that I'm telling when I'm just laying out the facts. You'll be able to match them from different books and be like, oh, that's why in a journal she was saying city, this and that and the other. In a book, she said the bitch did this, that. You'll get the chance to really, you know, put these stories together and really kind of it makes sense when you mix it all together. Yeah, she came back for murder. She is back for murder. She's right now fighting her case at CCDC right now. I have another friend too. I don't even want to say her name because the moment that I got out of prison, I went to go eat at Denny's, which I do have footage of, but I'm not sharing until I'm ready. I went to go eat with my brother. I get on the bus to go to my halfway house because you have until 5 o'clock to get there. And this dude is like, oh, you just got out? He like, you know, whoopty whoop. And I'm like, yes. He like, hey, that's my girl, man. This, that, and the other. It is such a, Vegas is so small, and with it only having one women's prison, everybody knows everybody. Like, it's too close of quarters. And that's why I'm like, I don't want to be in Vegas at all. And I don't want my daughter out here. I don't want my baby getting in trouble out here. I just don't want this environment at all. Anybody that's thriving in the Las Vegas environment, I don't know. It's weird. Weird vibes. Weird vibes. But I need to be somewhere where I'm comfortable, where I can sit and build and grow. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't really, I just need to sit, build, and grow. That's that's what I need to do. And I don't feel like Vegas gives you the opportunity to really sit and build and grow. The people here are really wishy-washy, weird, do things very awkwardly, very differently than I would like. It is gonna be really good, Tweety. It is gonna be really good, and I'm really excited to bring it to you. I'm trying to decide, like, on the book cover, do I want it to just be the cover and then my picture inside, or do I want to be on the cover? What do I want to do? Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to decide. I want to make the right steps. I want to make the right moves. I want to have the right intentions. Um, yeah. And then you'll find out later on, like in later chapters, um, what exactly Katie did to her child. So I didn't cover. So there's certain things, people that I introduce in book one that I really don't tell their story until book three. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get the chance to really find out when I'm in a whole different pod and they move this bitch into my new pod. And I'm like, oh, fucking can't stand the girl. And then everybody in the pod is trying to jump down her throat for what she did. And then she sits and she's like, Diamond, I wasn't thinking like that. Here's what happened. And then she tells me her story and I get the chance to really write about it. Even though I still don't like you after you told me your story, bitch. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's you get to kind of grow and familiarize with the characters. And then in, like, City, her story doesn't get told until book two, and her story is intertwined with other people's stories because she's from Vegas. She knows these people. She's dealt drugs to these people. You know what I mean? She slept on some of these people's couch. So her story intertwines with a few other people's stories. So it's really good. The way that it's put together is bomb. And I don't know how I did that, except for just to write the truth and just write it how it go. And yeah, I feel like it went well for me, and I feel like it's gonna be good. So I'm really excited about that. You think I should put my picture on the back? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think the front cover should just be the front cover, and then I should just put my picture just on the back. You know, I don't really need to be. I'm not one of those people that need to be like, "This is my book." See, like, no, you know, you know what I mean. So, what happened here? Huh? This phone be tripping. I'm already hooked, girl. Okay, then, period. Period. You better be hooked. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. I'm glad that it is that I get the opportunity. But I mainly, man, let me tell you something. I really want to build something that gives people understanding for what is really going on. Not only just to tell my story, but like hopefully that my story can mean something, motivate, show other people um, that they can make it out of trying circumstances. Like, and not just my story, um, other people's story that I tell for them. You know what I mean? Um, in book number 2, right, which was which is a lot more salacious than book number 1, because book number 1, the one that I just read to you guys, I'm introducing characters and I'm trying to get you to get a feel of, and then I'm new in the prison, so I'm also introducing myself to the prison. Book number 2 is totally different. It's so salacious. There's a lot that goes on in that book. My fantasies of officers is in there. I mean, I just kept it 100. Like, I just kept it 100, right? Thank you, Tweety. Thank you, Jen. Um, but so there's a character. There's a girl. I used to braid her hair. She got to a different pot. A lot of times, a lot of these girls will get to a different pot and start acting different. But she told me her story before she started acting different, and I decided to include it in season 2 or book 2 of um, this story that I'm telling. I can't say the title yet because I don't have it copywritten just yet, but I will. But her story is just so, it's like she was living this high life. She come from the slums. She was living this high life, living in this grandiose place. She met this man, and you got to be careful who you meet. You got to be careful the energies. You got to be careful the energies, okay? She met this man. He started treating her bad, got her best friend fired from her job. So she started using his money to help her best friend because her best friend was a single mom. You know what I mean? Best friend ended up becoming a drug addict. She ended up sniffing a little bit with her best friend. They start doing threesomes and stuff together. And then they eventually just decided to rob the dude. They drugged him, robbed him. They, you know what I'm saying? They ended up in CCDC. And when the dude came to court, he was in a wheelchair. This is one of them niggas like walking in chains. You know what I'm saying? Rich nigga walking in. That dude showed up to court in a wheelchair. And she like, wait a minute. And she thinking like it's not going to be that deep. But it turns out that the drug that she drugged him with paralyzed him from the waist down. So she has that to deal with. And there's a lot of different stories that I have in here. A lot of that goes on in book 2. Yeah, and she said she could hear the jury audibly gasp when they saw him in his wheelchair. Like she could, and she was just like what the, and she'd have never thought that she was the one who caused that. So there's a lot of stories in here that I would hope that women could utilize and learn from and understand that every single thing that you do, every single word that you say, it has a ripple effect. There are things that come along with that. It's not just you doing something. You have to be careful the way that you look, act, you know what I'm saying? The things you say, the things that you do, you have to be careful of all those things because you don't know what ripple effects you might cause. You know what I'm saying? And like something that turned into, she took some money from her boyfriend's account and this, that, and the other. It could have been probation turn into you doing prison because you drugged them and paralyzed them from the waist down. So you have to be careful. You know what I'm saying? Like all of these little things, right? So anyway, I thought you said he was going, no, he wasn't playing it off, child. That was real. But anyway, hi, Gina. You late. We love you, and I'm getting ready to leave. But I love my VIPT. Thank you for joining me for this video, everybody, and I will holler back at y'all. Peace and love.